We're not live. Now we're live.
Oh, live.
It's a Bitcoin podcast. The only one that's making your money is you. Listen to the Bitcoin podcast. So hold on and listen to the Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah, what you guys were just looking at was live footage of the beach kickback that we had on Venice Beach. It was crazy. Everyone showed up and started doing backflips off the lifeguard stand. And I was like, no, don't do that. And so, hey guys, welcome.
What are you
Welcome.
talking about?
You didn't see the thing? You didn't see it?
I was looking at Zapperfy.
Oh, you were looking. You know, Corey wasn't even a part of the. No, that was stock kickback footage from the planet. So this is a kickback. If you don't know what a kickback is, I believe the official dictionary is larger than a get together, but smaller than a party. Right?
Yeah? Did you make that up?
Nope. Urban Dictionary did. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, man. So we're just getting to reflect on us. It's 6 years of doing the Bitcoin podcast.
And
How does it
others.
feel? Well, Jesse, 3 years for you,
Yeah.
6 years for Corey and myself, 6 years of avid listening for Wayne.
Maybe not quite 6. I didn't start in the beginning. I did catch up. I think I've listened to every episode for sure.
I
Because
know
when I
a few
started,
people. You're one of them that have listened to every single episode.
yeah. So, going from the different intros and the different attitudes, the adoption is the only thing, and then just sometimes price, sometimes not price, and then the interviews, and then the expansion of all the different shows, and then the de-expansion back to core. So yeah.
Can you what's it like from someone who's just been consuming the content and listening to our voices and the curated content that we put out in the world through episodes via the content that's in the Slack? Like, what's been your experiences like us over the course of those 6 years? Because you're one of the few people who would have an opinion of the entire thing. I'd say Alicia is one of them. She's on backstage. Maybe she'll come and join us.
Joe, hold it. Before you answer that, have you ever fallen asleep to the sound of my voice, Wayne?
I have been driving when you said, okay, you people who are driving, pull over, and then you said to do something. That was kind of, you did that shtick, I don't know, a dozen times because you got more into the fact that you knew you were connecting to somebody after the fact, right? And it goes into answering Corey's question. I do consume a lot of crypto content, whether it be on YouTube or Patreon, or I use Downcast as a podcast app. So there's a whole bunch of different crypto podcasts. And when you try to optimize your consumption of this, you get certain tricks. Like you listen to 1.5x on some podcasts, and others, like Hashing It Out, you can't go. You have to go normal speed in order to consume it. So from my perspective, listening to all the different kinds of content, I listen to highly produced content, people who they have many people behind the scenes. They make it a product, right? Because they are producing it. Kind of like the music I listen to. I love highly produced albums. People who spend a year on an album getting the right sound, inventing sounds, all that kind of stuff. And then there's a complete contrast to like jazz or live or unproduced content, where it's just like, I want to take the minimal amount of time to produce this content, but I want to make it useful. I want to get it out. And I put you guys somewhere in the middle, but leaning towards the unproduced, right? You do some editing, you do some, you do your agenda, or your topics to consider. But it was clear to me as I listened to you, you were more interested in making sure you didn't get bored. And you were more interested in being what Dee would call authentic, but it's It's different than that. And you, like, to hell with the produced, right? You didn't want to make this a job for you. You wanted this to continue your passion. So I stayed around because you stayed around. You stayed around with this. This is what I care about doing. And then when there were things that you didn't care about doing, like following the price, you just stopped doing it. And even though that was in conflict with probably a lot of people coming to you, they wanted price. So you found a good, I think, compromise on that, because then sometimes D would say, hey, people are here for the price. Let's talk about the price. And then let's stop, right? You found a way to kind of do what the masses wanted. So you stay relevant somewhat, but for the most part, you have your own drum. And I'd say from the consumer perspective, I really enjoyed that, but I will never give up the produced content that I watch. The Andreas Antonopoulos and the Unchained and those kind of things. It's good stuff because they're putting so much effort in making sure that I get a really good message that they like. I appreciate that. And you guys, the effort is longevity and going, even the tangents that you guys go on. That's something missing from the produced content. So you're filling this gap that the other content doesn't have. And I think as you continue to grow, when you had more and more podcasts and then you took them away, I think that also helps the consumer grow with you. So hopefully that answers your question, Corey.
I wasn't looking for a specific answer. I just wanted your opinion. Like you've been around the whole time. And us making it, you're right. Like it's been a matter of how do we make this so that we keep doing it.
Yeah.
And
burnout's
we're not just
a thing.
bored by either saying the same things over and over again, catering to a specific audience, or talking about things we don't care about. Like I don't care about price. That's not why I'm here. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice sometimes and it helps with me living, but that's not the point that I want to talk about all the time, especially speculation of price. And we've all been here for various reasons, but the unifying thing is we all have jobs, or we all have something we have to do for the good portion of the week. So how do we keep this so that it's like a minimal amount of work that gets above a certain threshold of quality? That's also fun and engaging for us to have some social time and at least entertain ourselves in the process of keeping up with what's going on.
And the most important thing about our jobs is they don't suck. But if your job sucks, no, I'm playing. Like Corey said, we just don't want to be bored. We want to have fun doing this. And if you want to talk about price all the time, then go, on yahoo.finance.com or whatever and go look at the price. If you want to make your own, if you want to draw lines on charts, even though I did do that and it can be fun. It just wears.
That's for sure.
It is. You start let me look at the 5-minute chart, 15-minute chart, 1-hour chart, 2-hour chart.
I need more monitors so I can have them all at the same time.
Let me change my parameters. Oh, I like the way that triangle looks. That's the parameter that I like. It just becomes a self-fulfilling cycle of, am I really making that much money, or am I just making a little bit more than fees? Right? That was my trading experience.
We were in the early days, we were trading a lot more, I think. And the more sophisticated we got, this probably speaks to our ability to be sophisticated, the less we made, or if we made it all.
Yeah. That was when we were taking swings, we were like, holy shit, I made $2,000 that day. I'm going to quit my life. And then the next day we're like, this is me quitting my life. I'm really serious about this. Oh, there went my $2,000. Oh. But
Jessie, what about you? You started listening relatively early, and then you contributed to the community a lot. You got into trading, and then we've talked about this before, and then you just started contributing to the podcast and making content with D. What was that like?
Wait, I think contributing to the content in terms of making the original show that I did with D, What the Header?
Yeah.
Or
what was it like before that?
Just that.
How'd you find us, and why were you here?
How did I find you guys? I don't know. Honestly, I forgot.
You just mysteriously enter into people's lives.
I
and take
remember
over.
listening to the first episode. I remember what road I was on. I remember the train track. I remember what was going on at the time, and
The train track? What are you doing?
no, that was going. I would just remember the road I was on. There was a train track I was going over, and I just found the Bitcoin podcast that it was, I don't know, episode 80 or something. And it's just so weird now. I cannot remember what link or how I found out about Bitcoin podcast.
You know what that means, Corey? We are SEO ninjas, and we need to keep it that way. That's what that means. We just enter people's life through natural interneting, and then they don't even know how they get here.
So Jesse, can you not think of the what was going on the first episode that you listened to or how you happened on it?
I'm trying to think. So I mean, we can look at the dates, right? When I joined Slack, it was probably winter of, is it winter of 2016 or early 2017 when I joined? So it's just as the previous bull market started, kind of. So,
Yeah, it would have been 2016, early 2017.
Yeah. So I was working as an engineer at the time, and I was honestly like intrigued by crypto in terms of how it was pervasive in the games that I was playing, and I didn't really realize how big of an impact it was in terms of moving value off of video games between video games. And then I got into like buying a sum of Bitcoin at the time, and it was probably around when the price was like, I don't know, 1,200, give or take a few hundred. And that was sometime, I think, December of 2016, January 2017. And I pretty much got into it purely because I saw the monetary aspect. I mean, it was just Bitcoin at the time. I think that was like Ethereum was like not even on my radar at the time. And then Ethereum came on my radar a few months later, and I was just, I mean, trading it because I was coming from trading stocks and traditional finance 2 years prior. And so I don't know, crypto was like an extension of that to me. It was like, oh, you can trade this asset. It's extremely volatile, and you can potentially make some money on it.
Mm-hmm. So just making that moolah brought you into the scene. That's a lot of people, though. I found that that's a lot of people. I think that that's 99%. If you take 100 people that are quote unquote in crypto, 99 of them got in because they saw an opportunity, a financial gain, and 1% of them got in because they're like, "Oh, this is cool, neat stuff." But then what ends up happening is that of that 99 people, like maybe 10 more of them are like, "Oh, this is neat stuff, and I can understand it. Let me try to get more involved." Right. And so every single one of those cycles where you have those percentages, what is that? Roughly 11% of people, 11 out of 100 people that get into crypto and stay there. Well, that's kind of a good rate. I haven't done any research, obviously. This is just me trying to spitball off of my own anecdotal experience of how many people actually care about crypto after they learn about it and get involved with it. So I don't know. I think that's a safe bet.
I think
I remember when Broke joined. Well, so I remember at least I remember the first time I saw Broke talking in the channels. We didn't have a price talk channel yet.
Yep.
But I remember Jessie was talking about, ooh, wait a second. I think I found something, the cycle. It was like, I don't know if it was difficulty based or because you didn't say what it was, but it was like some weeks. He said, "Oh, wait a second, I think I figured it out." And I thought, okay, this is going to be cool. And because you were doing this analysis of price and external factors of price, and it's like, okay, well, let's see if. I don't think you ever posted it, but I remember your engagement back then. And I don't know if we can see in Slack when we joined.
We can.
I can look at admin stuff to see when people joined, but no one else can.
Yeah, we can. So we can find out. But yeah, Jesse's ability to.
I was like whole into trading, and I traded it up, and I never exited, so it just all disappeared. So I was like, okay, well, like crypto is still a thing. And so like I just kept investing in crypto throughout the years, but trading, like it was, you can't really tell if you're successful in terms of you, I guess you're not, right? Because if you don't exit permanently, right, and you're just failing to trade bearish cycles, then you're gonna like, I mean, you obviously fail.
I think successful traders are the ones that don't feel like shit after fees and taxes. There we go. That's how I'm that's how I'm going to define a successful trader.
Trading crypto can be just like trading anything else. You have your specific technical outs, your exits, your goals, your risk management. I mean, it's really, except for the volatility and the fact that, for example, every other stock and every other commodity only has a single source of order book. Like it's on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's nowhere else. But crypto, you've got 100 different exchanges. So that's a major difference.
There's no closing day.
And the second one is no closing. But I mean, you can definitely trade and you have your profits, and then you basically every trade is starting a new one. Instead of what it sounded like you said is that you kept trading it up. It sounds like you didn't sell.
So that's the problem. Like
that's
I
not trading,
denominated everything in Satoshis, and in a Satoshi quantity, I was always increasing my stack. But the problem is, once the dollar to Satoshi value sunk back down, right, from 20K all the way down to whatever, I exited the market at a lower dollar to Bitcoin like cost than I initially invested in. So it's like, let's say I put 20K in, right? Yeah. So I was like, wow, I fucked up, you know?
So did you come to the Slack with the price metrics mostly in your mind, or was it also, just general, like the community that you've grown and become a part of now? Or was it, see, to me, it was price first, and then it became something a lot more.
Yeah, for me, it was price as well. And then I was just hanging out on the Slack, and I just didn't care about price or crypto after a while. And then like I got back into crypto, but like with the mentality that like the way I trade is not going to be like as degenerate as I did before. If that makes any sense? Because I threw money at like the super shit coins. Like, we all joke in the Slack, like, Ken's like, we're all searching for like funny finance shit coins. Bag. Yo, I had the biggest bag of Tron. Like I had 40K worth of Tron.
Despite us, mainly me being like, it's garbage, you need to sell it.
It was hot garbage. Like I was just like, I was at a point where I traded to so much money that didn't matter to me, that bag. And I just kept it as a meme between me and Joe, just because it was funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I remember that conversation. It's like, it's for the lulz at this point. And that's kind of like, it feels like funny money because it doesn't, until it makes significant impact in your life, you then realize, or like where you lost the potential impact of your life, it doesn't feel real.
Crypto is real when I showed my brother I could buy a pair of Jordans with it. He was like, oh, this is a real thing. And I was like, yeah, it is. This is real value. And it needs to cross the Jordan threshold for many different cultures and many different people. It's just not quite there yet.
My wife and financial money is just the first killer app of crypto.
That's true.
There's so many more value after that. The one that paves the road, so that with the double spend problem and the other things that just come with money being the first killer app, it just once that gets proven at scale in an adversarial environment with a lot behind it, then everything else comes. You could be, voting and deeds and achievements and education and certifications and,
software licenses.
Software license. There's so many things that come up, but those aren't sexy enough or important enough to have the effort to stop the double spend part. But money is.
I would say that, sorry for my phone going off, audience. I would say that we're very, very far away from any other applications. And I also think that we're going to reach this max capacity where humanity can just keep having the same conversation about reinventing money, and we sidestep that and we go start to try and reinvent other things, and then we come back to money, right? I think that, like, you know, because the same way we've sounded for 6 years now is the same way somebody in the turn of the decade of the 80s into the 90s was like, yeah, you're gonna do your banking on the internet, you're gonna talk to your grandparents on video calls, you're gonna pay your bills on the internet, you're gonna go to court on the internet, everything's gonna be on the internet. And somebody's like, dude, you are insane, bro. Check your mail. That's how everybody does everything, right? Like, and so,
Short the post office.
you know, yeah, short the
So,
post
so,
office.
so what's happened from your perspective as over the last 6 years, and why you got into crypto? And obviously, as hosts and founders, you have gained access to a tremendous number of influencers and authors and all sorts of different people. How has your journey changed over that 6 years in terms of
Who wants to
what
go
you're
first?
what you're in it for? I have my suspicions based on what you say in the Slack,
Ooh,
but how would you clarify it?
this will be fun. This will be fun. Like, I'll say my standpoints, and then you see if it aligns. Okay. So when I first started this, I was kind of bought into the same reasons Jessie was bought in, but from a more than, oh, I could just trade this and make money. I can actually participate in this network. I can mine and make money. And that was when, you know, Corey first, he showed me how to mine Litecoin. And then I was taking the Litecoin and trying to trade that into Bitcoin, like everybody
Cryptsy.
tried to do, using Cryptsy. Holy
That's
cow,
sketchy. That's
did I
sketchy,
get
sketchy
my money?
exchange.
Woo, I got my money off of there real fast. The first time I pushed send and it, like, the screen locked, and I was like, I'm getting my money off of this. Like, I was like, I'm getting my money off of this immediately. So, and I had that same experience with Bittrex and Poloniex. Like, for a while, operating in this space was like a crossing my fingers that this money actually gets where it's supposed to go. But I wanted to contribute to the network because I did think, and at that time, and I still do think, that there's just a lot of broken systems, broken financial systems that are designed to keep a small pocket of people very, very wealthy, and everyone else thinking that they can get into that small pocket of people, right? And over the years of doing this show and interviewing lots of people, and it's starting from us just interviewing very different people from very different walks of life, it's slowly turned into the same type of people from the same walk of life. And I'm starting to see that in 6 years' time, the ideals that Bitcoin started with are fun ideals, but it's the odds of them working are very, very slim, because it's not necessarily a system that we're trying to change. We're trying to change human behavior, and that takes raw necessity, right? That takes, like, an event like a pandemic to change people's behavior, where in my municipality, we haven't had a mask mandate in a month and a half, but still every store I go to, everyone's wearing masks, right? The behavior has now been changed. And I don't think crypto is working hard enough to change anyone's behaviors. It's not. It's more so working really, really, really hard to have the same system, but just newer and shinier, right? Like, just a newer, shinier of the same system, because you're still going to take people with extreme expertise to know how to do something. And then when those same people with extreme expertise know how to do something and break it, there's going to be a standard or a law or a group of people that create standards that influence laws that make sure crypto is being used and done in the right way, right? This is just going to be a rhyming of everything we've already created. And I know that, Corey, you like to say that now people have the option, but there are not going to be a lot of people that exercise it. There's just not going to be. And so, in, like, the past 6 years of doing this show, from interviewing, like, artists and porn stars and rappers and business owners and business creators and investors and over-the-counter operators, I would just say that we're taking the same systems that have existed, financial systems and products, and just making them shinier and newer, maybe a little bit faster, maybe. I don't know. I hope that wasn't the answer. Six, there's a whole six people watching live now. Like, damn, what happened? But I mean, it just feels that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong. So
You are. It's not the only story.
it's not the only story.
That's the thing, right? Is that like I'll give you my perspective of what's changed over the 6 years you've been doing this or so, like from a podcast, like how the podcast has specifically changed things. It wasn't until I don't even know what episode or how long we were into this before we opened up the Slack to the public. So we were like actively communicating with our listeners and our audience for the good portion, like a couple years, I'd say, if not at least half. I don't know when I opened the
We
Slack.
can find out.
I'd have to look.
You talk. I'm gonna look.
Go to the admin account and see when we started the Slack if it has that information. And then for a while the Slack was just private because we were doing everything in a Facebook chat group, everything, like scheduling, you name it, right? Including like random chats between D and Cello about Marvel comic characters and things like that. So it was rough. But like as we kept getting together and trying to make content and releasing it and interviewing people, it was easy in the early days because who was involved across the ecosystem and the reasons they were involved was like just a few things. It was people who were interested in making money, but like who happened to understand how the tech works and had at least an overlapping set of ideals that thought that that was valuable. Like it was going to succeed and continue to spread and continue to grow at that point. And then there was people who were like interested in like the tech, and then you had like the hardcore like ideologues, people who are in it to like damn the man or skirt the system or like try a new paradigm of money. And then over this whole course, we learned about what money was, things like that. And as it grew, and as we kept interviewing different people, it seemed as though like the amount of people who are coming, every bull run, you'd get a bunch of people who came in and stay, and then every time there was a new capability that opened up that gave people a different way to make businesses and make money. Like the ICO boom, you saw a lot more people coming in with the sole purpose of making money. They don't really care about anything else, but they said the same words. It became to the point where like you can't keep track of everything. It's easy to get started, and most people are trying to take advantage of a hype cycle using the same verbiage that the ideologues had in the past without really understanding what it meant or giving a shit.
That's huge.
That became really old, really fast. It allowed us to make money as a podcast, but it was like through like the announcements. Like we sold announcements for people to basically just ask them a standard set of questions and then give them a chance to say it out loud, and then we publish that. And then I would shit on them in the regular show. But like, and that's going to keep getting worse, right? Because it's such an inclusive technology. Like by definition, its goal is to distribute power in as many ways as it can, and remove the ability for humans to manipulate others in a like overwhelmingly asymmetric way, right? It tries to distribute the ability for humans to control a large system that gives people value and ability. And if you make something like that, and it's also difficult in terms of technology, which is the only reason I'm in for it. Like I like the technology. Well, it's not the only reason. Then you're gonna, and people make money and like think they can make a lot of money fast, especially on like taking advantage of that ignorance, you just see a bunch of that stuff. And if that's all you look for, that's all you're going to see. And so over time, as that started to happen, and we had opened up the Bitcoin Podcast Slack to the community, and those who were listening to us came and joined that and started participating and talking, it became very clear that like the value in all of this, I mean, outside of me having access to people to ask questions, or me being able to leverage the like, I don't want to say authority, but like domain expertise of talking to these people and the information that I learn. Outside of that, like the main real value was the community in a lot of ways, and like the people who are coming and hanging out and contributing and talking about the things, and because we were authentic, like you said, or tried to be, or like we only did what we cared about and nothing else really. The people who came and joined and hung out were people like us who appreciated that, they enjoyed that, and they wanted to contribute.
Or if they didn't, they left.
Yeah, if they didn't, they left because it wasn't right for them. Because they're like, why aren't you talking about this? Because we don't fucking care. Go somewhere else. It's not a big deal. Like, we're not here to make money and sell a podcast. We want to make enough to like make it worth our time, because it's a lot of time. And ideally in the future we'll find ways to distribute that value back to the community, because now they're a good portion of where that content comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And now like we have this like in a sea of ridiculousness and like exponentially expanding information, and on top of like innovation, on top of scams, on top of like all the things that you could keep track of and how impossible it is to do so, we've somehow built a community of people that like helps us do it in a way that's not absurdly boring. And that's become like the motivation behind all this. It's just,
Can I amend?
Yeah.
Can I amend my answer?
Yeah. What's
Oh, I
up?
thought you said, "Can I amen?"
No, well, that too. Amen. But like exactly what Corey said is that like from the start of the podcast, it was about me getting out my opinions and obsession with a thing, to now it's like, can I continue to grow and create a community that has like value, right? Not only can people come to this community and add value to the community, but the community can add value to like, it's just this cycle. Like, and that's what we've built is like, there's so many participants in the Slack, like at least 2-3 dozen of you guys. And you allow us to create a signal in the noise of crypto. Like yesterday, I got hit up about what the hell, Zabra token or something on Twitter. And like, it's to the point now where I'm kind of like responding how you all in the community would respond in order to sift through the BS that is crypto. It's, that's kind of like how my perspective has changed. The podcast is a lot less about my obsessions and a lot more about the community of people.
Well, it's like, it's not that. Like, we still steer things. Like, the podcast is still typically about what we care about.
True.
But the information that gets presented to us, like the curated source, is a bunch of people who are a good portion like us. Like they at least like are like us enough to like listen to us and join. They got here. And so like, but I'm still talking about tech and like social aspects of crypto and like the power distribution with networks and trying to educate people on some of the basic stuff. Like most of my focus is still on tech and then like social implications of the tech and what type of change we might see later on down the line, and how early we still are. Like there's still so much stuff to be done that like adoption, like what we used to scream was the only thing that matters, is now like, well, a specific kind of adoption is the only thing that matters. Because, you know what I mean? It's not like the adoption that we're seeing today is scary and more along the lines of what you're talking about, D, when you say like we're just making worse middlemen.
Bro, somebody said, we are the Doge killers. We're the Doge and Shiba killers. We're the one true meme coin because we burn our fees. And they were pitching this to me with, I could only assume, as a straight face.
I don't get those. I think they know better.
Anyways.
Well,
yeah,
I remember. So I think there's an adoption curve, for lack of a better term, of certain people when they get into crypto. So I remember being in the Slack, and I would listen to the announcements, right? And I would listen to all of those, and I would listen to Corey's questions, and I kind of realized that Corey and his adoption curve had moved to, you know what, I'm not really going to care about every little thing that comes around, every ICO, every what, but I was still in the mode of, I want to know about everyone that comes in. Do I get in? How do I get in? Is it worth it? Is it a scam? Do I get in early? It's not about finding a greater fool necessarily, but it's also about, if I could have invested in TCP/IP
Alpha. I want that alpha.
and in 1990, I would have, but there was no such thing as a TCP/IP ticker or those kinds of things. And so I was still intent on trying to consume as much information about things that I could make money on. And I could tell when I would ask questions, Corey was like, yeah, I don't have time to look at that anymore. He'd moved on in his adoption curve to something else that was more important. Right? We could be consensus.
Well,
it could be
more important to
the
me.
status messaging. Of course, more important to you. And I never got the feeling that you were telling others that's not important. You were saying, I don't care. And you moved on.
At some point I made some conscious decision to like focus on the things I care about and don't try and understand everything like I used to. I used to want to know every single thing that happened, so I had a full grasp of it. And then I got to the point where like I made, and some of the earlier episodes you may remember, like I made the analogy of like the growth of a web developer over the course of the years, and how as that technology became more broad and pervasive, the concept of being a web developer changed. And so like that term no longer has any meaning. You have a
right, because you could be a React guy. Yeah, exactly.
And so
and the
because
tools
you
wizards make it easier.
There's too much stuff to know. You can't know everything as an individual. And I knew that Bitcoin was going in the same way, or blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Even in Bitcoin, you can't know everything. You still have to specialize somewhere. If you just stick to even a single network in the entire ecosystem, you still can't know everything. And so what I decided was that I'm going to focus on the things I care about and make contributions there, and then try and grow a network of people that care about the same and other things that I think are like ethical people that I would get along with. And then I'll learn from them too, because like that's the best you can do. And so like what's nice is that like the community is bigger than the show. The show is just like this source of generating content and attracting people to the community, and then like that's where the real value is. Like it's the community is way bigger than the show, and it always will be at this point.
What's unique is you can actually see that, Corey, in those graphs that Alicia put up in the patron channel. You can see how it started all private chats and DMs, and now it's like 80% public chat, and the DM chat looks like it's going down, and the private chat looks like it's going down as well.
Yeah.
So that's a really neat graph to say that we're actually doing what we say we're going to do. So that's comforting. That's very comforting. So it's been a journey, man. 6 years. Let me tell you just personally how when you like start a project. So when I turned 30, I said to myself, okay, I'm 30 now. Don't know when that happened, but it did. I know from the ages of 30 to 40, I'm going to focus on making projects with my friends. Maybe if I were like a more sane human, I would have been like, I don't know, make a family, but that wasn't me. I said, I'm gonna make projects.
It's just a project with a really, really good specific friend.
Absolutely. So I had all kinds of projects going on. And Corey just happened to be Corey. Before I even started the Bitcoin podcast, I produced a podcast called Better Humanology for a friend of mine that has an amazing fitness business, End of 3 Fitness. Random shout out there, but he has an amazing fitness business that only focuses on garage, gym, and home workouts. So, anyways, I was producing this podcast called Better Humanology and like cutting their video and doing their audio. And then right after, like literally a month after that, I was like, this is easy to do. I'm just gonna do my own thing, talk about something I want to do. And then the Bitcoin podcast sparked up, and I eventually didn't work on that podcast anymore. But that was with a group of my friends from college, roommates even. Same as Corey. And I was like, and then I've always tried to do projects with my friends my whole 30s. This is the only one with staying power. I don't know. Like my other friends are like, oh, yeah, I got kids and I
I'll tell you
have
why.
bills. Blah.
I'll tell you why it stayed. It's because
Why?
we didn't try and like turn it into a job.
That's true.
We did a couple times and it didn't work. We're like, all right, let's go back to the basics and just fuck around.
Anytime I try to turn into a job, Wayne, behind the scenes, I'm like, I can't be a 24/7 dickhead. I'm a dickhead at work. I can't do that all day. Like that's just not gonna work. And so we just kind of kept it fun. And that's why the other ones, you're right, it did turn into like I was in a sauna groups.
Well, let's talk about this, right? Like this is a good case study. And y'all were a part of almost all of them. Like at some point we decided like, you know what? Like we're only talking about a few things and there's so much else going on in the ecosystem. Let's make a network of shows. There's a bunch of people in the community who would make great shows. They've expressed interest. Let's give them an opportunity. So we'll become like an incubator of shows. And it started with, I think, Mackie when he left and made Block Channel and asked us to be a part of it. We're like, all right, cool. Have your channel. We'll put it on our show and then whatever. Started making more shows that were of different flavor of content. And then we became like this like, all right, how many shows do we have? Like, Alicia put it in the.
I got it.
Here.
I'll read them out.
Yeah.
Read
all the shows that we ever had.
On Rapping with D, announcements, blockchain future, block channel, blocked by design, crypto till infinity, dose of ether, hashing it out, what the headers, just the headers, the bullpen podcast, law and blockchain. Wasn't there buy or sell? What the hell? You forgot buy or sell.
What the hell's also in there?
What the hell? Holy cow! Do we get producer credits on all that? Look at us! Look at us! Look at us! No, that's a lot of shows, right? And I think Ken Bozak also had a show that I don't think
had a Bitcoin show. He just turned it into his own.
He turned it into his
not
own
another
thing.
Bitcoin, not another Bitcoin podcast. Was it called? But my point of bringing that up is like we made a bunch of shows and tried to enable people to make their own shows and do what we did because we found so much value in it, and almost invariably, excluding a few, maybe a few of
You're
those.
being nice. You're being nice. Go ahead.
They fell off because people like the like initial honeymoon anticipation phase of like I'm gonna be a podcaster. I'm gonna make shows. Then they realize how much work it is, especially when they try and produce the living hell out of them. They run into a few things. One, they're like, this is too hard. I don't want to do it. It's taking a lot of my time, and I'm not getting the immediate like returns that I was expecting. Even though we were like boosting them to levels of listenership that like took years to get on day one.
Yeah.
Then they weren't like the drive of they spent all the time making the content and none of the time either like getting the rewards they wanted. So they expected sponsorships to just materialize without working for them, or they expected someone else to do the production, like all of the grunt work. They're just like, oh, you don't do that. They expected all these things, and then it just fell off, or they just got bored, or they were successful in an event that like some of them were like, hey, I got a job offer from doing the podcast. I'm gonna go do that, and I'm not gonna do the podcast anymore because they got the notoriety they were looking for, which gave them the clout to get a job, which they then just like wholesale left the podcast.
Yeah, what's his name? The dude, the guy who did like an NPR style show and then quit and then told us he quit because he found out we were taking money for announcements episodes. And he was like, well, I didn't like being aligned with you guys because you take money for podcasting. We were like, okay. We're like, all right, well.
And then I know you had other people.
Yeah.
You had other people like me who wanted to do a podcast, but let perfection be the enemy of the good. It's like I can't even do the first one because I wanted it so perfect.
More often than not, that's the case.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not ready yet. I don't it's not perfect. They're like, who gives a shit? It's gonna suck. And I think that's one of those things that like you just have to be okay with sucking.
Yeah.
And just keep doing it. Like if you're not doing something because you enjoy it, what are you saying, Jesse?
No, I enjoyed See, one of the things like I enjoy doing the podcast with D is primarily because D is who he is. He's just entertaining to just, talk to,
You're
whether
making
it's
me blush,
talking
bro.
about fucking dumb headlines or like even just trying to learn to code. Like he still makes it entertaining in the way that he doesn't understand things, and then we try and explain it in ways that we both understand it. So
So
it's,
Jesse says, "Do what you hate with someone you love." That's
there it is.
what
Yeah.
he's talking about.
I got into this 100% because of the money, and then I stayed 100% because the bull market was like when you're beginning and you're in crypto, you think like, wow, like there's so much money to be made. But like during the bear cycle, it really like solidifies your interest in crypto as a whole when you look at things beyond the money aspect, right? It's
Mhm.
like for me, it's just like chilling in the community, posting memes, shit posting crypto shit for like, what is it, like 2 years, more than 2 years for that
Yeah.
last bear cycle. And like, it's fun,
When you get so much more out of it than just the financial
Yeah.
aspect. By spending a couple years with crypto, you have a better discerning eye towards projects. You understand how money works. You
Mhm.
now look at the terms of conditions of something that you sign. You realize there's incentives in everything. There's nothing free. There's so many life lessons you learn from
Mhm.
digging into crypto, and it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
That's very true.
That made me change my career, seeing the numbers balloon up. And I was like, wow, I'm not going to work for money. Like in the way that I thought
Right.
I was going to work for money, like
Right,
working
converting
as
your
an engineer.
converting your time to money is one way of making money.
Mhm.
Right.
And then as you work with crypto, you realize there's so much more that you could do for your time to money conversion. And there's, passive income. There's other things you can do for money. And then you realize, what am I spending my time on that I love to do? I
Yeah.
think you were the last interview you guys with the two guys, right? The
Henry
one
and
that you
Kevin.
just published. And you asked, do you enjoy what you do? And they said, no, I hate it.
That was
Yeah.
a shocker to me. That was a huge shocker to me. But
Well,
asked them, do you love what you do?
It requires them to be honest as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Not everybody is going to be honest with that question, especially with coworkers listening.
Mhm. That's
And I think that's one of the main reasons why I like this technology so much is because most people on the planet will answer that question. If they answer it honestly, they'll answer it no. I hate what I do. It's required
Right.
to live. And because I think it's too difficult to make money doing the things you care about doing in a manner that's like commensurate to your contribution.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that, right? Like if I contribute a little as I learn about a given community because I'm interested in it, then maybe I can get a little back. And the more valuable I become in my contributions to a given community, the more value I get back. Right? If that like step function of how much you need to contribute to get that much in value back gets a little smoother in terms of like how there's a lot of different ways to contribute, whether it be small or large, and you can either like go fully into a single community and make your whole living contributing to it, or like contribute a little bit to a bunch of communities that you're interested in and make enough to get what you need. Because we don't have the technology to facilitate that type of payment schedule for contribution, doesn't work in traditional finance. That's why we have monthly salaries or monthly or biweekly paychecks. Like the paying system is based on the inefficiencies of the rails, not because of it's convenient or like it's the best way to work. 9 to 5s or similar situation because you had to show up in a specific place and be in a physical location. And I think as we make this technology and the digital world becomes more part of our lives, we make more opportunities for people to contribute to the things they care about and get paid the like an equal amount relative to that contribution. And then they get to learn how to be good contributors to communities and the things that they care about, and potentially pay for all their bills and their food and their families.
Yeah.
As opposed to right now, like most people's answer is I work a shitty job that I hate because I went to school to get a skill set that I didn't know I wanted or I didn't want. I thought I did, and to a point where like I make a paycheck and I can't leave it, and it gives me enough to afford me a little bit of time to work on things that I'm interested in or care about. But at no point can I get to the like
Yeah.
It's going to be a very high risk situation for me to say, you know what, I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to quit my job and the comfort it gives me to pursue something that I'm passionate about. And it's like, I don't want that to be a high risk situation. I think this technology allows us like for smooth transitions as people grow in their lives. And that's a big thing for me. Like that's what I've learned. That's what I've come to in terms of what I'm passionate about over the years of doing this is I want that world to exist. And I think this technology is a facilitator of it. And I want to try and make that happen.
I
What do
think
you
it is
mean by that?
1,000%.
What do you mean by it smooths the transition?
It smooths the transition because like if you're able, okay, let's say for instance like today's hobbyist, right? And what Patreon did for today's hobbyist. And that's a traditional technology, doesn't matter. But like what it did is it allowed people to create content for communities and get paid by the people who are consuming it. And the amount that they were getting paid was relative to like the quality of their content via like the number of subscribers they have. And if they made really good content, they got better subscribers, they made more money to the point where like at some point they will say like, I don't need to work anywhere else. I can just make content because my subscriber count, if I do it a certain way, or if I get to a specific level, I can just do this. And it's paved the way for like the content community or the creator community to like pursue passion in a way that's never been done before.
I see a crazy ass future where all these things that we're being exposed to are painting a picture of people having the freedom and autonomy to work exactly when or how they want to, depending upon skill sets that they could prove. Right? Like I imagine a world where, you know, there's somewhere right now in a factory somewhere, there's a person sitting down looking at bags of stuff or sitting down looking at boxes of stuff, and they're moving them whenever they don't match certain sets of parameters, right? Or robots are doing that. But imagine a world in which you could put on like a pair of goggles and you could be 15 robots at once doing that, but you only see one screen. Your user interface shows one screen that's real time of whatever's going on at whatever factory and whatever area of the planet. But when you move one box, right, you might be triggering a bunch of robots to do the same thing, like a force multiplier. Like you can't stream payments like that on the current financial network. But if somebody could, whenever they wanted to, just be the Uber of, you know, production work, warehouse work, you put on a pair of goggles and you're virtually in these warehouses doing these things. And then you take off the goggles and you're not working anymore. And then with like an hour after you're done putting the goggles down, your quote unquote credits or whatever currency is just streamed into your wallet. You can't have systems that robust and that automated on the current financial systems. And I think crypto's gonna be the glue that binds this crazy ass automated world that we don't have any choice but to move to. And you know, do I know exactly what it looks like? No. Do I know it's going to happen? Obviously, right? I currently am in a position where I get insight into a lot of insight into how businesses work, and I'm trying to hire people, and they don't want to work because, like, the wages aren't where they need them to be. I can't pay them those wages. What I can do is buy a bunch of machinery that can do what I need them to do one time, and then I'll pay my maintenance fees. It'll be a little bit better than paying benefits and all these other things every single year, right? You know, we're moving towards that inevitability, and crypto is kind of like the glue of that automation. So, all right, I'm done. I just got triggered by something you said, Corey, and I wanted to hop on a soapbox for a second. Yeah.
Did I answer your smoother transition question, Jesse? Was that enough, or do you want more?
I guess it's not going to work for everybody, right? And so, like my thoughts are that crypto is really like for what I see, it's really like it's a new technology, and the people who are hipster enough to participate in it are going to be rewarded with lots and lots of money. And then everybody who lags behind, they're just going to be subjugated to, you know, whatever new systems come of this.
Aren't all technologies like that?
Yeah,
The power
they
grid,
are.
the cars, the internet, buildings.
Yeah, that's
100%.
they are,
Mhm.
and
This is different in a sense that it changed money. In my opinion, it generalized money and made it closer to value, like general value.
yeah,
And then we attach different contexts to what that value means, and we also have a way to like exchange it, automate the exchange of it, prove ownership of it, things like that, which like isn't comfortable for people to. Like if you think about, uh, Alicia, you keep writing in the private chat. Just want to enter and join the conversation.
Maybe so. And so, Jesse,
Just
when you
join.
say that might not work for everybody, I don't think anybody's saying that it would work for everybody. For example, you need service staff, you need hospitality, you need
Well,
doctors, you
yeah.
need things where the example of a Patreon, like a Mark Rober, is that his name? The guy that's on YouTube, he just does really cool stuff. He spends 2 to
Mhm.
3 months making this
He makes like
amazing
12
20-minute
videos a
video.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's a million. He makes millions of dollars because of that. So someone from that all the way down to the tarot card reader who has a Patreon and
Mhm.
still has 300 subscribers, there's no way that kind of thing could work in the environment where we had 3 broadcast TV stations with commercials, right?
I guess
So
my question to you is, do you think that'll last for 30 years, enough to make money for them to retire on that? Or do you think that they're going to be, that tarot card reader? Because they're going to be Mark Robers, but then the vast majority of people are not going to be able to hold an audience for 30 years in order to accumulate enough money to
I
retire
think
on,
y'all are
right?
focusing too much on content creation
yeah,
based
I
on
think
what I was talking about.
there's enough peer-to-peer value
Hmm.
that can be enabled through a crypto-like platform that will allow people to supplant typical jobs to get the things that they want out of life.
It's
yeah,
maybe closer to like the gig economy that I'm trying to
Yes.
like
Yeah,
use as an
but peer-to-peer.
analogy. But like what's important to realize is that you need to get skills. You have to spend time doing something and learning how you do something and failing and getting better and submitting it to people who want work done or like better people who understand to get to the point where you have a skill set that's worth something, that's valuable to other people. And
Experience gives a pay raise.
my problem is that right now, the most of the time, getting to the point where you're a marketable human being based on skills you've earned, the process of getting to those skills either means that like you're gonna like take a tremendous debt onto your life in order to get to the point where you can even start making money in a myriad of ways. You can look at that debt in a lot of different ways. And this technology enables people to like start doing something and getting skills that they need and the things that they want to be good at in a way that like maybe gets them a little bit of money,
yeah.
or like it creates a community of people where contribution is paid for and appreciated. Hopefully like the curation of that content is more meaningful, and it gives people a better path to like learn how to do what's quote unquote good for any given community, whether that be like contributing code to a code source, creating content on a Patreon, curating content for that matter. Like you can learn a lot just by
Can I
saying I think this content is valuable to me, and boosting it somehow.
can I qualify that though, Corey? I think this industry is paving the way to show you how to build skills in a digital environment.
That's because, well, I think initially yes, because that's it's of course going to be, it's going to impact the people who are building the technology first, because they're the ones that understand it and are willing to make that jump and try to do it that way. Like up until like the usability and like fame of crypto was up at the threshold where like regular people were asking about it and trying to use it, why would they try to use crypto if they don't even know it exists to do something to start contributing into a community? Like it has to get to a certain level of legitimacy and in ease of use before the people who aren't building the actual technology can start to like reasonably use it in their everyday lives. Like that's why like, we're starting to see designers and the tremendous amount of other valuable skill sets that are out there besides coding start to enter the ecosystem and work for companies and find jobs, because we need those people, and businesses are realizing that coders are terrible at doing those things. And so like they're learning more about it. That gets better. So like the businesses now who are getting larger, who are contributing to these things that are making the ecosystem, are now thinking about how the stuff works and understanding it. Eventually, like regular ass people are going to do it because it's gotten big enough. Alicia, go ahead.
Pass the mic.
I wanted to speak on what Jessie was saying about the systems and how people are being left behind. Society biases are always built in any type of system, and a little bit is in the crypto space, in the sense that there has to be a certain level of privilege. Like you have to have an internet connection, electricity, stability, and the ability to make that leap into the system to build. You have to come from a certain set of security already built off of the old system into this new system. I think the difference long term versus other systems is all the other things that are happening in society. Like if you go to YouTube right now, I've done it several times, and I'm sure other people have done it. Like I had to fix a plumbing problem, but because of the content creation of YouTube, even without cryptocurrency, but the information distribution, I could be able to learn how to do this simple task by watching these videos instead of hiring a plumber, or fixing this or doing that or learning things. There's so many people learning how to do things, like me learning how to do the silly video I did. I had to watch so many videos to learn how to do it, and learn it from different types of people, and learning the same information in different ways to understand what it is I needed to do. And I think because of that, now that we have this monetary system and this thing, the information distribution thing, it has more decades ahead of the monetary system, is allowed to come in to where people that would have been behind in previous systems to be able to gain that money now can jump in and not be so far behind. They can actually leap ahead or be equal because they have that information skill set that they can access to. And it's just a matter of what Corey and Dee are saying. It's just a matter of time for people to be aware of it and connect.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a leapfrog. There's a leapfrog, for example, in a lot of third world countries where they don't have internet, but they have a cell phone.
They have a cell phone.
They bypass landlines. They bypass traditional banking, and they go straight from no phones, no bank account to, well, they've got a cheap cell phone and they have a crypto wallets.
So, well, even before that, with M-Pesa, it was about minutes. Even here in this country, trading minutes. So that they created that monetary system on their own because there was a need for it.
Yeah.
And then crypto came along, and people were able to latch onto that. And there's now a more of a global value, which versus the minute system might have been contained within the ecosystem of those various countries that participate in M-Pesa. Now they actually have a way to bypass like IMF, trade barriers, the USD dollar, those kind of sanctions, that kind of
remittance fees,
those kind of strangulations that are on these post-colonial countries. They can bypass that and gain value for themselves internally, individually, for their community, but as well as for their country, and be able to participate on a different level. And I think that is also a very valuable thing. Those countries also are bypassing like power grids. They're going to solar. They're going smaller. They're not going to have these big, huge, large
monolithic infrastructure.
Yeah. It's going to be smaller, and it's going to be more community-based, to where people are now, like, we're dismantling parts of highway systems to add green and walkways and changing our cities no longer to being car-based. Well, these countries didn't have cars for the longest time. They're not going to be car-based because cars are going out. They're going to be back to almost a pedestrian, bike, electrical, a centralized transportation system. And it's going to be a very different way of building wealth and freedom, if you will, of movement for those countries, because they're leaping ahead, like you said, Wayne.
And when you say like the society biases are built into the systems, when I see things like crypto and the way consensus is done, I see another leapfrog in how humans compromise, Whereas instead of being a specific border, specific set of laws, or even the way Congress or Parliament or different lawmaking systems work, where the left starts moving things one way, and then
It
after
gives you
4
more
years,
simpler than that.
right,
Patriarchy and hierarchical structures where there's an elder, and because
right,
that person is an elder, you listen to the elder. Or for most societies are patriarchal because the person is the man in the household. You go by, even if they're wrong, their input, whether you're the younger person, wife, or whatever your relationship is. You don't have that. There's not that hierarchy.
right, and then because of the consensus mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
you don't add a feature unless everybody agrees to the feature.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to compromise. You have to say, okay, well, I want it to be blue, and the other person saying, I want it to be yellow. Well, it can be one or the other, and you have to figure out an actual way to compromise to move forward instead of, the typical political spectrum where I'm going to get what I want, and then I've got to give you, I've got to spend pork belly money or whatever
It's
it's called.
certainly a technology that makes what quote unquote good and bad is for a given community much more transparent, and
Yeah.
like the effort it takes to contribute to that thing that gets through, like,
Yeah.
and also like where that power comes from, like who has the power to make those decisions. In some cases, like you look at these networks, and the power structure, although talks about being decentralized, is very centralized. You look at Bitcoin, and it moves really slowly because it's very, very, very difficult to get everyone to agree on something,
Yes.
which is a feature, not a bug. Like, it will continue to move that way. It'll be very hard to change unless you get everyone to agree on something.
I mean,
So I
we
think we're
just
building a system
activate
that has
copper.
different biases.
Well, like it gives you options on what your bias is going to be, and making it transparent and malleable over time.
Yep.
I hope we answered your question, Jesse.
No, just I think you guys mentioned something like there's some sort of privilege involved in terms of the people who are building these systems out, and so there's inherent biases in what's being built right now. Like we're following rules, programmatic rules made by developers, and there's no historical reflection, there's no sociological study behind a lot of what is being developed right now. It's just kind of like wham bam, let's see if we can throw a token onto it, and let's see if it flies.
Yeah.
There is quite a bit of stuff. There's quite a bit of things that are actively looking into the concept of governance and how to make fair rules, and that's why you hear the words thrown around: game mechanics, or game theory, and mechanism design. Right?
I agree with you, Jesse, because I personally get frustrated with this space because people speak of remittances all the time. And
That was the huge thing that Bitcoin
That
was
was-
supposed to provide,
that was
right?
a huge
Banking to the
thing.
unbanked, remittances for low
But
fees. Well,
the thing that frustrated me was like, okay, there's people that have been talking about this for a very long time. There's organizations or development, and nobody went to these organizations. Like Coinbase is based in San Francisco, right? There's so many unbanked people there within the city, within Oakland and surrounding areas. Why didn't they group up with somebody out of the Berkeley or Stanford or any university in that area or institution and said, hey, we have this technology. We are based in this city. We're part of this community. We would like to utilize this technology to an aspect of this community that we know exists, and try to unbank people here first before going global. And it just didn't occur.
There's
I
no
think-
money in unbanked.
I think there's
That's why.
helping people is always going to be an afterthought. I
Yeah.
think
So you
It's always
weren't
gonna be an
se-
afterthought.
I'll
you
get
weren't-
mine
you weren't
first, and then I'll
serious.
help some folks.
But
Yeah.
you guys are, this is what I said.
that's exactly it, Corey.
Yeah.
That's the mentality of this space. It's like, let me get mine, and then I'll consider helping everybody
But-
else.
That's
That's what
not why I came into this space, because when it first started, it was very much about helping everybody.
Mhm.
It was like, this is supposed to be for all people.
And that's
That
how
very
I
early.
tried to
And
make
then
a
a lot of
compromise
finance
here.
bros came in, and then marketing
Yeah,
came in, and then it just
yeah.
I've tried to make a compromise here because I'm not going to lie and say like I didn't want to make money. Of course, I want to make money. I'd like to like secure my family and wealth, and my ability to work on the things that I care about. And that's usually through I got to pay my bills and I got to feed my family or help feed my family. And so what I decided the best course of action here is if I didn't want to throw away my ideals of like I really want to help people is to try and find ways to help people or like to make money that also helps people.
Yeah.
Because like if you assume everything's a zero sum game or like I need to extract value from someone else so that I have it and they don't, then you're going to end up with systems that do that. And I think this technology allows you to at least experiment and play with
I
ways
don't think it's
of like
experimenting, Corey,
doing
personally.
doing more
I think
community good while also making money. Like you can do both.
I think that if anybody's listened to the show for any iota of time, they should know I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee, right? Huge fan. Man literally changed my life after he's been dead. All right, so humanity, what is this thing? Be like water. That's the phrase that everyone's most familiar with when it comes to Bruce Lee. The best systems we have are the ones that don't fight natural behaviors, the ones that just kind of guide natural behaviors, right? When you're taking on a punch, the reason why boxers make it look like they could take a crazy ass punch to the face is because they're actually moving their head at just the right amount so that the blow of that punch kind of just gets absorbed by the rest of their body, right? It just, you go with it. You don't try to fight it, because if you try to fight it, you're going to be what are those things? Those crash test dummies from the 90s, right?
They're called crash test dummies.
Crash test dummies from the 90s. You roll with the punches. That's where the phrase comes from. You roll with it, right? I think that like until the unbanked exhibits behaviors where the banks want to go in and roll with the blow that is going and servicing them, they'll never be serviced. And the question I always ask is, they're unbanked and they probably don't give a shit about being banked. And that's probably
not true, D.
Right.
they probably don't. If they did, I'm just saying, like,
That's not true, D, because that's why there's Venmo, Zilla.
There are people that are like that, but I think the overwhelming majority of them would like to have access to things.
Yeah, Square, all these like digital fiat-based apps that are restricted to like a certain amount, like $500, $1,000. These accounts, so many people have them because they can't actually get a real bank account, so they get paid through those type of systems.
But what are they would like for?
Huh?
To store wealth. That's like a very basic thing to be able to store
basic thing
wealth.
To be able to pay things on the internet, to be able to get paid, period, for certain tasks. Like if they're doing hair and the person doesn't have cash because cash is cumbersome now, they can get paid digitally, or doing stuff online or graphics or being part of the digital space. But for a lot of these platforms, like if you, even with PayPal, because PayPal can be very shitty to people sometimes, you have to have a bank account. And that is very cumbersome for a lot of people who are living to basically paycheck to paycheck, where everything has to kind of go out because they really don't have enough money to meet that minimum bank account requirement.
Okay.
Or there's not even a
like
bank.
hyperinflation of currency. You have government manipulation, repatriating people's money. You have a lot of different factors at play, right? In different countries.
I've been that guy before.
Yeah.
In fact, I was living with this gentleman to my left, maybe y'all's right, when I had negative 4 digits in my bank account and had to go get my checks cashed 2 days prior and pay back a crazy ass exorbitant fee to get my check cash. I've been that person before, but guess what I did? I actively wanted to be banked, and I put myself in a position to get there so that I could be banked again.
But you were also in a position where you could do that.
You could do that.
You're in America. There are other countries other than America.
But even here in America, that you can try to do that.
Wade's like, what?
But you could try to do that, but you could still, like, you know, a lot of places the minimum wage is still $7.25. A lot of their states haven't changed that. They're working two, 3 jobs to make a living.
I absolutely get it.
And they still can't maintain a bank account because everything is going out, and you have to have a minimum amount or you get dinged. Or there's this thing that banks are doing, and I wish they would do something about this, where the money is there, stuff is getting taken out but there's like a 5-minute difference between when money comes in and money comes out, and they ding you for overcharges, or they deliberately delay it so they can get overcharges.
You're not in control of that money, and in some places around the world where access to banking is more difficult for those or for the underprivileged,
Yeah.
Not only is it difficult, but once you get one, it's corrupt.
It's extremely corrupt.
Like that, and so like it's in some places around the world, in a lot of places around the world, you either have access or you don't have access, or if you do, it's manipulated to a sense where like it's oppressive anyway.
Yeah.
And this gives people additional options to circumvent that corruption.
Oppression.
I think you're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think there's no right or wrong here. Which
But I don't. Yeah, you don't want to give people this option of like. I mean, if you are in a privileged location, you should take advantage of that. You were able to dig yourself out of that because because those opportunities were around you.
Yeah.
I remember when you left college for a little bit and came back. When I saw you, I was like, what the hell happened, man? How'd you do all this? You're like, you just looked at me and goes, nobody wants to be a jabroni.
Yeah.
I worked my ass
big
off.
facts. Nobody wants to be a jabroni.
He said, nobody wants to be a jabroni. I worked my ass off to get here. But like a part of that, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is you worked your ass off in an environment that had opportunities. And even though you come from a historically oppressed group of people in America, you still have more opportunities than a lot of people in the rest of the world.
Very true. I don't take it
Or
lightly.
even in this country.
I don't take it lightly. I understand that. I'm just saying, like, when you go like, what is it old fucking the dude from Jurassic Park, crazy dude, tall skinny guy, Jeffrey Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
You know, nature finds a way. Like in West Africa, when they were like, man, we don't have banks, but we got all these cell phone minutes. Why don't we
Yeah,
just
I like
trade these
technology
cell
that
phone minutes?
greases the rails a little bit for those people who get creative and find a way out.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I
yeah,
think we all agree on that.
I definitely agree on that. And yeah, that's not true. It's not true to generalize and say that everyone that is unbanked wants to be unbanked. That was probably an incorrect statement. But I would say that an uncomfortable percentage of those that are unbanked probably want to be unbanked.
And for
That's
some
what I
of us, the goal is to unbank the banked.
There you go.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
That has become more of my goal than, I mean, yes, I remember in 2016, 2017, one of the mantras that went around was, hey, remittances, and hey, bank the unbanked. And it's, you know, when you first hear about that and you first understand, look at all these problems, crypto can solve them.
Mhm.
It is exciting. And then you get more into it. And it's like, well, why would we infect all those people with banking?
Mhm.
That's horrible. We need to remove the virus of banking for the people who have it now.
Well, it's the same situation of like further distributing power.
Yeah.
Like if you have a system, and we'll just take the monetary supply and the services that give access to it, which is like money and banking. As an example, you have a small group of people who control the supply and a small group of people who control access to it. And that's a tremendous amount of power in human hands. And a good portion of what crypto is trying to do, if you listen to the narrative of early Bitcoin, is to remove the power from those who have it and distribute it more equally to everyone else. And so that comes up as unbanking the banked and banking the unbanked. But like both extremes of those scenarios, like it's going to take a long time before banking infrastructure is gone or adapts to this technology. And in some cases, we're making it more powerful. But at the same time, we're giving access to people who would like to have access and opportunities to like be creative and get out of the situation they're in by not being a jabroni or circumventing the oppression and suppression that they have.
We've done one thing I want to point out is character true to form. We've done a bad job of talking about 6 years of this show. We haven't looked back on anything. We just did another
Started
show.
out that way. I don't know, Alicia. Like we could go back to that. Like you've been here. I don't know. I feel like since day one in the community, you were tweeting us.
Episode 10. I found you guys. It was like the drunk episode.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a great episode to
Is that a
find.
drunk episode?
I
Yeah,
dropped
yeah.
maybe like 5 or 6 of them.
I
And that
dropped a
was
lot of
because
F-bombs.
I had my own podcast. I was really into Dogecoin. So I had a
Really?
Dogecoin focused
Interesting.
podcast.
Awesome.
And I would talk
Back
to them back then, 2015.
Be into Dogecoin is all I'm trying to say. Like,
At least just
Such
The
the number one
community
Wow.
back then was super fun. They
Such
were
Yes,
wow.
it was super fun. I talked about the crypto news, and then a lot of what I was saying was, I don't know about this. I was openly, I don't know. And I would make comments of how silly this is. And one of the biggest things I was talking about was I compared the big fight between small block and big block to rappers. Like they were beefing in the streets and people
Oh,
were
yeah.
just like, just taking shots at each other, and you had to be very amused by it. And I was trying to be amusing. I was only with myself. I couldn't get anybody to join me to talk about this. And it was just me talking about it. And after a while, I think what drained me was the big fight of the split and the
my
BC
turn
issue
left, and
in the mining, and it just got really toxic because I came into the cryptocurrency space more of a political, social, logical perspective. I mean, I heard about this in 2010 Bitcoin. And when I was hearing people talk about it, I was in this internet cafe uploading resumes because it was still an economic depression. The crash happened in 2008, and I was still looking for regular work. And I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me that there's this thing on the internet where you can send money and it's money and it's not created by the government and it's okay. I was like, you guys are going to get arrested so fast. The feds are not going to let you guys do this. You can't just make money. Look what happened to the gold people. They tried this and the government came down hard on them.
Yeah.
Or it's trying to come out on them.
They're going to do that. That's what I fear, Wayne. That's what I fear is that all these banks getting permission to spark up wallets and spark up tokens. I think they're just gathering as much data as they can before they draw a hard line in the sand of, all right, you can deal with fiat crypto or you can deal with that dirty, dirty black market Bitcoin crypto, right? They're just going to get all the data they need to put that line in the sand because that's what they do. That's how
I guess
governments
that's when I
operate.
become a political activist.
Yes.
That's
And
that's
so-
when I put on the old suit and tie.
So when I heard about it in 2010, I dismissed it. I thought it was just not going to happen. They're just going to come after you. That's because that's what governments do.
Yeah.
And then as I was looking for the various forms of work, especially online, I kept seeing Bitcoin. If you fill things like out the surveys or these little quick money things or Amazon Turk stuff, those type of stuff, they were offering Bitcoin. I was like, what is this? And I eventually read the white paper. I started finding information. I think there was like one or two podcasts and a few. I think Andreas was like pretty much the only good one out there on the YouTubes. And I was
That's
just
not
like,
Trace
Mayer. Trace Mayer at
Yeah.
that time.
I didn't like Trace Mayer for
Sure.
many
Turn
reasons.
around back then.
A lot of these financial guys is just, I was like, you're the reason why people are trying to destroy this. Why are you here? He seemed to me like a Fed to me, Trace Mayer. That's just my opinion. But I was just reading and listening and just lurking for the longest time. And then I was like, okay, let me try to mine. I couldn't get the computer to work. And then Dogecoin came along. I was like, let me try to mine again. And I almost broke my laptop trying to do that. And the community seemed much more fun because talking to people that were in the Bitcoin space back at that point, it was hard for people to answer new questions in a nice manner. They were like, how do you not know what a DAT file is? How do you not know command line? It was like
Dogecoin was like, here, we give you some. Have it. Here's
yes. Dogecoin was like, oh, you don't know what command line is? You go here to your computer, you hit this. You don't know what the window key is? You see where there's on your keyboard that looks like a window? That's what people mean when there's a window key. I was like, oh.
Yeah, they were very friendly, and they were
extremely friendly. And
the goal of Dogecoin was to use Dogecoin and just throw it at
use
people.
Dogecoin.
It's a good learning experience.
It was
Very
a
much
good
was.
learning.
Because if you make a mistake, you've lost nothing.
You did lose nothing, yes.
Yeah.
And I did lose some because I trusted a wallet online, and I got scammed.
Yeah.
I was like,
If you haven't gotten scammed, then you ain't in crypto yet.
no, and
I
I've been
got
scammed a few
scammed.
times. But
Wayne, have you been scammed before?
I'll go.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You don't get your
Absolutely.
marks. Remember Honeybee or B whatever that
Oh,
was? Neo
those
B.
Neo B, I think.
They did.
Yes,
They
Neo
did
B.
such a good job. They had me
I got
sold.
doxxed.
Can we go
I
around the
had me
table and
sold.
like how much money or how much you
I didn't
got
want to think
scammed?
about how
Of
much
today's
money.
Oh, wow.
value?
Don't no, not in today's
Oh,
value.
I'm
at the
only
time.
going to disclose what I put on my tax forms as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I paid my taxes, IRS, man. I did.
Corey, I'm thinking about how much Bitcoin I sent to DOB right now, and I'm like, oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's a lot. Oh my god, that's a lot. Oh,
There's
How
still
about
wallets out
computer
there that I've used
crashes
that
and
were
hard
just gone.
drives and not putting down your password right or your seed phrase or any of that or trusting a paper wallet?
Mhm.
I think it comes down to trade-offs. I mean, I
Mhm.
think everyone here has lost something. Everyone here has probably gained more.
Mhm.
And so if you were to be put to the question, would you have rather not done it? I think the answer for all of us is yes. That lesson was worth it and that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
I think it also comes down to when we talk about banking and crypto, as if like banking is only bad. I mean, if we look at our cars, right?
Mhm.
Cars amplify a lot of things. It allows us to get to hospitals, allows us to have jobs, but we also kill tens of thousands of people a year because we have cars. So it's a trade-off. And banking allows us to buy a bike over the internet without having to trust. Yes, you pay 3% credit card fee, but it enables so much more. It's like we forget,
That's
and
not
we
all bad.
always. What's that?
It's not all
It's
bad.
not.
at all.
It's not all bad. So if we look at, yes, the crypto's not doing enough. Yes, banking is not doing enough, but there's, are we all on the same path to make it better tomorrow than it was today? And I think that's part of that trade-off too. We have lost crypto.
Yeah,
And
there
we've
was
gained
political
crypto.
stuff that
So much
that
money in
crypto's been
crypto.
part of, like with the WikiLeaks and the Wall Street stuff, and contributing to different revolutionary causes, and just the simple fact that very early on with the Bitcoin Core wallet, which I downloaded, you could send messages to people with no problems, and no one would be able to read it. Yes, I know PGP existed, but that is such a cumbersome
Have
thing
fun.
to utilize. But there was this built-in thing, utility. You just type a message and send either no fee or send some Satoshis, and someone can have that message. Or you can attach a message or note to whatever Bitcoin you were sending or something like that. And I found that very revolutionary. And so that's why I got into this space. And I still think there's still strong political, whether people like it or not, this is a very political thing, creating money that's not part of any existing institutional form of governance that's ever
like
existed before.
I would agree with that. That's like a
That-
tertiary.
That is very revolutionary.
That's what like from a technology standpoint,
Mhm.
and why a lot of this stuff interests me is I mean, I guess coming from a physics background, I'm like a deconstructionalist. I want to like take everything apart to its like components
Yes.
and see how it works. And when you start trying to solve complex problems, like it's interesting to find things that solve the same problem but remove a constraint that previously existed. So it still does the thing, but it no longer requires this like component that used to be integral to it. And when you think
Yes.
about it in terms of Bitcoin, it solved the money problem, or like the ability to transfer value digitally without requiring humans, or at least like human moderation.
Right.
And
You didn't have to
it's
have
like-
a
it's-
pulse.
It changed what it meant to like insert human influence on the process of money. And I like that type of situation where you solve a problem by removing something, and in some cases, it generalizes it because like once you have the thing, you can always add it back in somewhere above, but you can always exit that and go back down below where it doesn't exist. Like we talk about with like Coinbase being a centralized entity on a decentralized platform. Don't like it? Take it out. And
Coinbase.
Coinbase.
I had to say it. I couldn't
And
help
so
it.
like that type of situation is very important to me. Like I like solving problems like that. And this ecosystem is trying to find ways to solve as many problems as they can like that. And when you talk about distributing power, more often than not, you're taking humans out of the process to distribute power.
And the distribution of power is fairly equitable. I mean, it's across the board. It's up to a level of your participation. It's much better, but it's also not enforced by traditional mechanism of boots on the ground and bullets.
Well, it's also because we've removed the concept of humans as moderation for the money, and also like the control over the supply of that money for Bitcoin. You remove the need for jurisdictions. That's why Bitcoin is global, because it doesn't require a jurisdiction. Everywhere else, when you look at fiat money, it requires a government to mandate how that monetary supply is done.
Right, the taxes have to be paid in it, and it has to have a military to enforce it.
Yeah.
We need a Bitcoin
That's what
military.
fiat requires.
We need a Bitcoin military. Don't say
Well,
that, Jesse, because
well,
Max
there-
is also saying the same thing.
There's an app where you can hire off-duty cops, because that's a good idea.
That's such a
Mercenaries.
good
Those are
idea
called
because
mercenaries.
that's worked so
Those are
well
called
in the past.
mercenaries.
Yeah, mercenaries.
Pretty sure that's the
Mercenary.
definition of a mercenary. Is
What
I'll
was the
pay me to
pitch?
do work.
You know, what was the pitch there? Have you
It's
ever
a gig
wanted
economy.
to hire a
It's a gig
mercenary? Have you?
Yeah.
No. It's just I think that what I think is that I'm gonna go on my philosophical little tributary here. Every generation, I think, has an opportunity to affect technology in some way, shape, or form. They get these opportunities, or at least it's been that way for the past 100 or some odd years. It's probably not that way, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I feel like you have to make technology useful for more than just yourself. And I think that, we had the car, right? We had at the turn of the 20th century, the car, and we had the computers, internet, and every generation is like identifying with these huge technological advancements. The telephone, right? And I think our generation, maybe the 25 to 45 or 50-year-olds, this is kind of a huge technological advancement that's kind of going to be our responsibility to make it available and usable easily to the public. And it's so nuanced, right? I got to think about this a lot when I was traveling a lot. And I was like, man, planes have been around for a long time, but what percentage of the population knows how to fly one of these motherfuckers? Like, it's not a big percent. So what are we classifying as adoption there with just a plane? Planes have been around for a grip, but I'm not flying no planes. And I know nobody here flies planes either. But when it comes to adoption, we definitely have used them all before, probably. Right. And so it's like, okay, so what is adoption? Right. And what does it look like for crypto? And can we be reckless with it? Because it is money. Let's not get it twisted. Can we be reckless with that? Because there's probably lots of stories in history where being reckless with money led to a lot of bad things. Right. Like Catholicism. I'm pretty sure they got pretty reckless with money, and it led to a lot of bad things. And then banks were invented to basically counteract what they were doing when they were reckless with money. And now banks are the bad guys. And so it's like, I feel like the inevitability of people in our position is that we are going to have to be politically active in order to say what is the quote unquote right or wrong thing to do in certain scenarios, because people won't know. And they're going to delegate that responsibility to someone. And that's the way it always works. That's the inevitability of this stuff. Because, I mean, I'm talking like, I know people across the gamut. And some of the smartest people I know are still like, dude, what? I don't understand this. And I'm like, oh, this just says that you sent money from this wallet to that wallet. They're like, but how do you know? And I'm like, because it says it. It says it right there.
It challenges your preconceptions of money. I mean, you're saying it simply, but no, you didn't send money. It's all on the blockchain. You're assigning ownership, and now you have the key to unlock it. And so what's actually happening under the hood doesn't yet have a vocabulary that we have adopted. There's no
That's what I'm
wallet. You don't have any Bitcoin. It's going to take a generation for us to actually adopt
Exactly.
the real underpinnings of what's happening.
Exactly.
Using terms like wallet.
Yeah.
It's gonna take I think it might take several. Like I look at that famous chart that shows the adoption curve of famous technologies that have changed society. And I look at where crypto is on that, and it's like just barely getting off the ground when it comes to time. And it's like, oh wow, this is gonna take a long long
But
time.
everything gets faster too. So
Yeah, everything is faster, D. It's not going to take
everything's
generations.
faster.
Millennials, they did a study where apparently 40% of millennials that they surveyed from the study possess some form of cryptocurrency.
Well, so that's because we have access to all the previous exponential technologies
Yes.
that are available to us now,
but
right?
think of
We
it
can
this
use
sense.
those to catalyze the adoption of new exponential technologies.
So-
and if we consider blockchain an exponential technology, like AI,
But we're talking about human
quantum computing,
behavior.
things like that, then it gets adopted faster because we have things to catalyze it. And like that adoption process has been felt. I think we did this in a previous episode back when Cello was with us, when we talked about this is the first time in I think the history of the world where there's more than just one exponential technology being adopted at once.
That's
Yeah,
a good point.
Yeah.
Right? Like before it was just like there were roads. That's it. That's the only adoption thing that mattered was cars and roads. Next
Yeah.
was, before that it would be like what, like electricity or like
Telephone.
like the Iron Age. Like there's certain things throughout all of history where like there's one big thing that happened that revolutionized the world. We've got multiple going on at the exact same time.
yeah.
But but to speak to what Dia said about changing human behavior, for example, smoking. Smoking used to be a huge cultural part, and still is in some aspects of the globe,
Sexy.
particularly in the
It
Asian
is.
region.
It
But
was.
smoking was banned. You used to be able to smoke with your teachers as a senior, kick it in the back of school and smoke, and then it got banned from school. Teachers, students, nothing. That started in 1992. Smoking in the
There's
car.
still ashtrays on the airplane.
Ashtrays in the fast food places. Ashtrays on the airplanes. It used to be for the longest time you would know when a certain particular building was built or chair was built because they had a little ashtray in it. And you see none of that. Smoking has significantly reduced.
Still here though.
And that was from a governmental top-down push on society, but it was also global, and it changed people's human behavior. People didn't pick up smoking as much.
There's
Well, it's because they found it caused cancer, right?
There's some little bit of science in there too.
Carcinogenic.
Yeah, but alcohol causes liver disease and drunk drivingness and all sorts of problems, but we still
And good ass times, am I right?
there's not a significant ban as there is, smoking, and
Let's
they
wait
just
till we
raised-
get the-
alcohol took to culture, like it's rooted deep, too deep.
Well, just wait till we get the science behind being addicted to your phone,
I think some of that's already come out.
social media, right? Well,
Yeah.
it's just like with smoking and with other things. I'm sure some of the studies are being suppressed or biased. I mean,
Yes.
it's going to be part of the human condition all the time.
True.
Yep.
But I do think, like with what you were saying, Corey, there's so much going on right now where there's such a multiplier of things going on. I do think though that it's not going to be generational, D. I think it's probably just going to be two. It's us, the Zsters, and then whatever they're going to call the next generation, and then that's it. That's the thing.
Yeah, people
But
are
then
already comfortable with like number on my phone means value.
Yes.
Now we just got to make sure that those things aren't manipulated.
Yeah.
Like it's not about them being comfortable with it. It's about whether or not those things are manipulatable.
Yeah,
I mean, kids are sending party invites over TikTok and causing riots. I mean,
let's pause for the cause for a second and go back to the kickback for the 6th-year anniversary of the show.
Probably start wrapping it up. Let's wrap it
Well,
up. And kick back.
I have something for both of those. So I have a question for each of you. Jesse,
Yeah.
is what you do actually hard?
Oh, what I'm currently doing?
I'm checking out on this one. I'll be
Engineering
back
is
in
a
an
piece
hour.
of cake compared to this.
The medical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Studying for this exam to try and score as well as I'm trying to do right now. Definitely. Podcast
Okay.
stuff? No.
It's easy for walk in the park.
Yeah, well,
right.
I mean,
Oh, what the hell
Jesse
you mean?
shows up
No,
and talks.
it's difficult, Jesse. I'm looking right at you.
I mean, it's time, right? It's time to record, and then it's also there's like back of house time, like what we're trying to manage, other things in the background. So I mean, yeah, but like in terms of like the most difficult thing that's going on in my life right now is making this career change, and it's taken me almost 3 years. So I mean, this is by far one of the hardest things I've ever done.
You got more to go, man.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Or so
You're
D,
just- yes.
D, your question is in 10 words or less. Can you describe the Bitcoin podcast?
Hmm. In 10 words or less, it is for the streets, for the people. No, I'm kidding. That was Little B's answer. I would say the Bitcoin podcast is a show where you can get easily digestible crypto information.
Okay, good.
We wanted something more.
No, it's I wanted to see him squirm, so I got what I wanted.
Oh, okay.
Because that's it. You know, I asked you your question. I asked him kind of his question. I'm going to ask Corey. Was there anything we should have asked you but didn't?
No, we
Is
covered
there
it.
anything we should
I
have
didn't come
covered in
with an
the 6
agenda,
years
so I had.
the 6 years kickback that didn't cover?
Yeah, things we're gonna be doing, I think in the future, maybe premium content, maybe not, we don't know, is actually kicking back and watching old content together and ruminating how right, wrong, and stupid we were. Or like we're just laughing. We're just laughing at the conversation because what the type of content we played back, we've all grown
Tremendously.
like in our professionalism, our our personal lives, what we care about, what we know. Like we've all grown in the process of making this and doing it, and looking back on it and like having fun with it. I think would be really fun because we like the types of things we were saying back then, what we talked about just within Bitcoin is so weird in comparison to the current scene because of how fast this industry moves. And then looking back at like who we were and what we cared about during those times is going to be interesting. It's like I can't wait to hear the dumb shit I said, what I like in off on the random tangents I went on in terms of explaining things. Because I bet that like a good portion of them are different than where I live now, and I think in today's society, like we don't appreciate how much people change over their lives, and we expect them to be the same person forever, and that's not the case.
All right, so then I have a question for the producer. Are you on board with the Bitcoin podcast reacts to the Bitcoin podcast series that they're going to come out with?
I think they're
We
going
cannot
to be
call it that.
very amazed about some of the stuff they said and the vocabulary because
Oh,
I
man, that
was
was raw.
pulling stuff was very vulgar.
It was
Not
raw.
me.
It was-
I know who
you
I
were
am.
Lost. You were the
I
most
know.
raw.
I know exactly who I am. Everyone here and listening, I know what I said. Will I be apologizing? Yes. But it is what it is. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know we do have 3 trademark questions. That's pretty solid. So to everyone who watched, thank you for watching. We got to do the things that we typically do when we wrap these shows. So, man, 6 years is a long time. Holy cow. Ken Bozak has a tattoo of us on his arm. By the way, I reached out to old Bozak. He's probably going to be coming on the show probably in the next few months.
Nice.
So please become a patron. You can go to the patreon.com/the Bitcoin podcast and become a patron. The tiers are there and you'll get things. Are we great at being content creators on Patreon? No. Have a day, Ken. No, we're not the best, but we will be one day. We're on a real tortoise path towards content creation, baby. So join the Slack if you haven't done so already. I think it was a year ago when I said I'd like to have 800 Slack members, and we are right there. We are like Wait a second. We are 7 members away from 800 members in Slack. I know not all of you are active, but that's pretty dope that we could bring 800 people into one spot. Let's say, what else do we got going? We got iTunes reviews. Don't leave us a review. Oh, Corey, like my parents told me to stop saying what we typically say. Do you want to say what we typically say?
Oh, they don't like it?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents don't. Why are you laughing? You gotta
That's
listen
funny.
to this. You gotta respect the parents.
All right. Stop.
I mean, I can't say it, but you can.
Oh, okay. Fuck off.
That's not even what we say. That's
It's
not
close.
even
It's
what.
close enough.
That's not even close to what we say.
It's close enough.
What I'll say is, if you don't want to give us a 5-star review, then kindly close your podcast app, okay, and stop listening to us. But if you do want to give us a review,
I think the 1 stars and 2 stars are hilarious.
they are. They're pretty.
I don't know.
good.
Maybe before you do, like, I think I enjoy doing this because I don't care about that stuff, and I think there's other ways to grow a community and potentially monetize a podcast. I don't want to use. I don't want to become this thing that we like have to do. Like, please like, subscribe to the video, click at the thing because the YouTube algorithm likes it. Like, no, don't.
I've
don't
seen
care.
that before. You're right.
I
That
don't
is
need
such a
it.
huge turnoff. Like even when you're watching a very well produced channel, and they're like, look at this data, guys. Only 6 of you guys are subscribed.
I
and
don't care. I'm gonna
150
find a
of
better
you
way.
aren't."
I want to
It's
find a better way to do it, and then I'm not gonna like change the podcast so that we get more numbers.
Well, me and
If we
Jesse
don't get
already
more
have
numbers,
the better way.
then people don't
Yeah,
like
we,
us.
we already have a
I
better
don't
We
care.
already have the better way, Corey. You've got to get on board, and that's Thirst Trap Thursdays when this man's done studying for his MCAT.
Okay.
All right.
You can get on board. I'm back at jiu-jitsu. I'll start looking good again.
Heck yeah. So much nip. So much nip. All right. So back to the shout outs here. Let's start our shout outs, baby. We got Charlize Theron rocking the bangs. I see you. Shout out to her. She is one of my favorite actresses out of South Africa. Megan Thee Stallion. In fact, I'm gonna let Corey do these shout outs.
No. I don't want to do these.
Say no.
I don't
Threw
want to
you
do
a
this.
curveball. Who is it, Corey?
This ain't my
person?
part of the show. We could drop
Are
the
you
whole
sure?
thing for all I care.
Or you specifically requested this.
I don't even know who that
Person.
is. I don't know who that is.
How dare you.
Dragon Lady, Game of Thrones.
All right.
That was her, really?
Yeah,
Like,
and
Khaleesi?
then that's Emma
That's not
something.
That's Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Get
There
outta
you go.
here.
Oh, we just put redheaded white woman on here now?
Whoa, man. Why you gotta be so like putting people on a box, bro? What's that about?
Drop the whole section for all I care.
You specifically requested women of non-color
Oh,
because you
Like
said
ultra
all
white.
these are people of color. So I said, so Alicia and I
was
said,
just pointed out.
well, this
That doesn't mean I want
is
to
Priyanka
give shout
Chopra.
outs to women who are redheaded and white or Asian.
Alicia, you're just low key making fun of us, I think, because this
She's
is just
100%.
Asian redheaded
This
white
is
women.
Alicia's
and
free
black
time to
women.
like troll us.
Shout out to Zazi Beats. Shout out to White Face and Long Neck. You're doing your thing, girl. I was watching Drumline the other day, and let me tell you something. That's a wide face. Like that is a genuine. That is to scale. That's to scale. Shout out to old Michelle Obama doing your thing with those long fingers. I see you. Michael B. Jordan, nice pea coat jacket. Lori Harvey. She's losing some Instagrams talking about her. They are. Shout out to Gabrielle Union. Okay, like Corey and Jessie aren't even paying attention. They're just clicking away. These are important shout outs, guys.
No, I'm setting up for something.
Shout out to
I'm not paying attention. 100% not paying attention. The show's
Becky.
over to me.
Becky Lynch. Not Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley. Shout out to her. She looks like a Ripley.
Believe it or not.
And that's it. That's all the shout outs that we
One more,
have.
one more.
And
One more
shout
shout
out to Wayne
Well played, Jesse.
Wait,
But
you,
Jesse,
you can recognize me only because there's a label on it.
That's not true. I will see you from anywhere. I spot you from a crowd. So,
That's awesome.
thank you guys for listening for all these years. Thank you for all the new listeners who continue to chime in. Thank you for all the feedback. Oh, thank you to that very special person that I haven't talked to in a while that showed me, and is a family member that showed me that we have 1-star reviews on iTunes. As to which my response was, why don't you go make a podcast so I can give you one, jerk? And then for those of you that give us 5-star reviews, we absolutely love you. We do, from the bottom of our hearts. Now go click and subscribe. No, I'm playing. That's all I got. You guys got it? Hey, you. Do you like chips? Like, do you really like chips? Where to the point where you're eating chips so much that you look around and there's crumbs and you're like, who put those crumbs there? Did I put those crumbs there? And I'm here to tell you, yes, you did, because you like chips. And if you like Cheetos, especially flaming hot Cheetos, then you should tell people to subscribe to this channel, the Bitcoin Podcast, because 1 out of 1,000, that's right, when we get 1,000 subscribers, one of them is going to get 100 bags of Cheetos. Flaming hot Cheetos, baby. Think to yourself, how many Cheetos is that? And I'm here to tell you, it's like 1,000,000 calories. If you ate it all, you would most definitely not be healthy. But we're going to send them to you because Flamin' Hot Cheetos are amazing. So that's right. Share this around. Get us to 1,000 subscribers. We'd like to have 1,000 subscribers, because if we had 1,000 subscribers, that means one of those 1,000 subscribers is getting 100 bags of Flamin' Hot Cheetos. I forgot about that. I like it.
That was awesome.
You
That's
heard what it
good.
said? Tell your friends to subscribe. You might get some Cheetos.
you might.
Maybe not. We'll send you those Cheetos in the year 2027.
You're getting them Cheetos.
All right, guys. Play the outro.